Alright, let's talk about a real powerhouse, a true legend. The story of Samson. Picture this. Times were incredibly tough for the Israelites, really tough. The Philistines, big bullies on the block, were pushing them around constantly. For 40 long years, this was their daily grind, their reality. Can you feel that? People were losing hope, desperately looking for a hero, someone to stand up tall and roar, "Enough is enough." They needed a champion, a genuine game changer to shake things up. This wasn't just some local disagreement, this was about the survival and freedom for an entire nation. The air was thick with expectation, just waiting for a spark, any spark. Then, onto the scene come Manoah and his wife from a place called Zorah. Good, honest folk, but they carried a quiet sadness. They had no children. Then, out of nowhere, bam, an angel appears. And we're not talking about just any angel with a harp. This was a messenger straight from God Almighty. He delivers some electrifying news to Manoah's wife. "You are going to have a son." But hold on, this wasn't just any son. This boy would be special, chosen by God himself before he even took his first breath. Imagine the shock, the disbelief, then the overwhelming joy. This was a divine announcement, a promise of something truly incredible. Now this angel didn't just drop the baby news and fly off. He laid down some serious rules for this miracle boy. He was to be a Nazirite. That's a very special vow, a lifelong, unbreakable commitment to God. Rule number 1, absolutely no wine or any strong drink, not even a tiny sip. Rule number 2, no eating anything considered unclean. A strict clean diet was key. And the biggest rule, the one everyone remembers, rule number 3, no razor must ever touch his head. His long hair was to be the visible sign of his vow, the very source of his mind-blowing strength. These weren't just friendly suggestions, they were divine commandments, absolutely crucial to his destiny. So, in due time, Samson was born, just as the angel promised, and as he grew, the Lord blessed him. You could just feel it, couldn't you? There was a special energy, a unique aura around this young lad. The Spirit of the Lord began to stir within him, like an unstoppable fire deep inside. This wasn't your average kid growing up, this was a hero in the making, getting primed and ready for the main event. He was the one chosen to begin delivering Israel from the clutches of those Philistine oppressors. The stage was perfectly set, the hero had arrived, and believe me, things were about to get seriously interesting, folks. Samson grew into a strong young man, absolutely brimming with life, and let's be honest, probably a bit of a wild streak too. One day he wanders down to Timnah, which was a Philistine town, and what happens? He spots a young Philistine woman. Straight away he goes to his mom and dad and says, "Get her for me, she's the one I want to marry." Now his parents weren't exactly over the moon about this. Marrying a Philistine? That definitely wasn't in the script they had imagined for their special Nazirite son, their chosen one. But Samson, well, Samson usually had a way of getting what Samson wanted. This little episode showed his impulsive nature right from the start. So, Samson is on his way to Timnah, probably thinking about his upcoming marriage. Suddenly, out of the bushes, a young lion, fierce and roaring, launches an attack. Most blokes would be absolutely terrified, frozen stiff, right? Not our Samson. The Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him with this incredible, overwhelming power. He grabbed that ferocious lion and, get this, tore it apart with his bare hands, just like that, as if it were nothing more than a young goat. Can you even begin to imagine that kind of raw, untamed strength? And he didn't even bother to tell his parents about it. Just another day at the office for Samson, I suppose. What an absolute unit. Later on, at his wedding feast, a 7-day affair by the way, Samson, feeling a bit playful and perhaps a little bit cheeky, decides to pose a riddle to his 30 Philistine companions. Out of the eater came something to eat, he says, and out of the strong came something sweet. A proper brain teaser, and the prize? 30 sets of fine linen garments and 30 changes of clothes. Not bad. But these Philistine lads, they just couldn't crack it. For days they scratched their heads. They got so utterly desperate that they threatened Samson's new wife, trying to bully her into revealing the answer. Under immense pressure, she eventually caved and told them. Some start to a marriage, eh? When the Philistines smugly presented him with the answer, Samson knew instantly he'd been tricked. "If you had not plowed with my heifer," he roared, and you can bet he was furious, "you would not have solved my riddle." The anger boiled up, and the Spirit of the Lord came upon him once more with mighty power. He stormed off to Ashkelon, another one of their cities, struck down 30 of their men, took their garments as spoils, and used them to pay off his debt to the riddle solvers. Then, still burning with rage, he went back to his father's house. This, ladies and gentlemen, was just the explosive beginning of his one-man war against the Philistine nation. After many more battles and astonishing displays of his God-given strength, like that time he casually picked up the city gates of Gaza posts, bar and all, and carried them to the top of a hill, Samson made a mistake. A monumental one. He fell head over heels in love with a woman from the valley of Sorek. Her name was Delilah. Now, Samson, as we know, had a bit of a history of being attracted to Philistine women, and this attraction always seemed to drag him into a whole heap of trouble. But Delilah, she was different. She would prove to be his ultimate Achilles heel, the one person capable of truly bringing down this mighty warrior. It's a classic tale, isn't it? A strong man brought low by a fatal flaw, a chink in his armor. The Philistine rulers, absolutely desperate to neutralize Samson and end his reign of terror over them, saw their golden opportunity with Delilah. They approached her secretly, dangling a massively tempting offer, a huge pile of silver from each one of them if she could discover the true secret behind Samson's incredible superhuman strength. Money can be a powerful motivator, a dangerous persuader, and Delilah, well, she listened very carefully to their offer. She then began her mission using all her charms and sweet, deceptive words to try and coax the secret out of him. "Tell me, Samson, my love," she'd whisper, "what is it that makes you so incredibly strong?" The manipulation had begun, twisting love into a dangerous weapon. Delilah, showing serious persistence, tried multiple times to trick Samson into revealing his secret. First he spun her a tale, telling her that if he were tied up with 7 fresh bowstrings, ones that had never been dried, he'd become as weak as any other man. So she tried it. He waited till she shouted, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson," then snapped them like they were pieces of thread. Next he told her that new ropes would do the trick. Snapped. He broke those just as easily. Then he told her to weave his 7 braids of hair into the fabric on a loom and tighten it with a pin. She did exactly that, and when he awoke he simply pulled out the pin, the loom, and the fabric. Each time she cried out her warning, and each time he made a complete fool of her and the hiding Philistines. He was playing a very dangerous game, dancing too close to the fire, but Delilah was nothing if not relentless. Day after day she nagged him, she pestered him, she wore him down with her persistent questioning and her feigned hurt, until as the story goes, his very soul was vexed to death. He was tired, frustrated, and perhaps in a moment of profound weakness and foolish trust, Samson finally caved. He told her everything. He laid bare his soul and revealed the sacred Nazirite vow, explaining that his long hair, his 7 braids, were the key. If they were shaved off, his strength would leave him completely, and he would become as weak and ordinary as any other man. He shared the very core of his divine power, his most guarded secret, with the one person in the world he absolutely should not have trusted. With the precious secret finally in her possession, Delilah knew exactly what to do. She lulled Samson to sleep, his head resting on her lap. Then she signaled for a Philistine man, waiting in the shadows to come in and shave off Samson's 7 braids of hair. As his consecrated locks fell silently to the floor, his incredible earth-shattering strength departed from him, just as he had warned. Even more devastatingly, the scriptures say the Lord also departed from him at that moment. When Delilah cruelly cried out, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson!" He awoke, initially thinking he could escape their clutches as he had done so many times before, but this time, he was utterly powerless. They seized him and in a brutal act gouged out his eyes, then led him away to Gaza, a truly tragic and heart-wrenching turn of events. Blinded, broken, and stripped of his legendary might, Samson was bound with heavy bronze shackles. He was then forced into the humiliating task of grinding grain in the prison, like an animal. What a devastatingly low point for the once mighty champion of Israel, the man who could tear lions apart. The Philistines, of course, thought they had finally won. They were ecstatic. They organized a massive festival to celebrate their victory, offering a great sacrifice to their false god, Dagon, publicly thanking him for delivering their most feared enemy, Samson, into their hands. As part of their cruel celebrations, they brought Samson out to their crowded temple to entertain the jeering crowds, mocking the once formidable hero in his moment of weakness. Thousands of Philistines were there, crammed onto the roof and packed inside the temple, all reveling in his downfall. But in their arrogance and celebration, the Philistines overlooked one small yet incredibly crucial detail. Samson's hair had slowly begun to grow back, Standing there in the noisy temple, positioned carefully by a servant boy between the two main pillars that supported the entire roof, Samson uttered a desperate prayer to the Lord. "Sovereign Lord, remember me," he pleaded with all his heart. "Please, God, strengthen me just one more time and let me, with one final blow, get my revenge on these Philistines for my 2 eyes." He then braced himself, placing one hand on each of the massive central pillars. This was it, his final chance for vengeance, his one last act of defiance against his enemies. Then with a final, earth-shattering roar that must have echoed with all his pain and resolve, Samson pushed with all his remaining might. The mighty pillars groaned, then buckled, and then the massive temple came crashing down with a deafening sound. It collapsed spectacularly, falling directly onto the Philistine rulers and all the thousands of people packed inside. In that one cataclysmic, self-sacrificial moment, Samson killed more Philistines in his death than he had managed to kill during his entire action-packed life. He died alongside his enemies, a flawed and tragic hero who, in his very last moments, found a powerful and unforgettable form of redemption. His incredible story, though tinged with sadness, powerfully reminds us of God-given strength, the perils of human weakness and temptation, and the amazing way God can work His purpose through even the most imperfect people. What a finish.